Hey, welcome to Musician Species 11/8. Where do I begin? Look at all these lines of code. However, let's talk about a few different things. Okay, in 11/8, we can start introducing groups of 4. There would be too many 2s in a combination with a 3 that we need to break it up a little bit, and it introduces a little bit of a drop that the 4 gives you. Now, it's close to 12/8, so you can approach it from a shuffle kind of point of view, or you can approach it from 5/4, 6/4, so we could do a short 6. So now, let's get back to the Eastern traditional stuff. So, I have an example from the Macedonian folklore, and it's like 3/4/2/2. So it'd be like... Now, if you noticed, I was snapping 2 on the group of 4, okay? This is something that's more of a flavor. The 4 has its own drop on the 1. So this constant snapping of 2s is more of a flavor. It's not the actual pulse. The pulse will be... right? That makes it breathe more. It gives you that drop. It's a very common thing in Eastern traditional art time. Now, if you look at all the groups, all the combinations of the 2s and the 3s and the 4s, you could end up with something like 2, 3, 4, 2. We have 2s that meet, the last one and the first one, okay? So, vocally or in your head, you need to make the sound different so that you can feel the beginning and the end differently, right? So, in my case, it would be something like... right? It's the emphasis that is different, but you need to feel it. The other thing you can feel in there is the 2 and 3 are kind of like a 5/8, and then go make your way through the rest of it, right? It's not a compound of like 5 and the 4 plus 2 being 6. It's not that. It's simply something to get you through it once you get used to it. And like I said, the last one and the first one need to sound different, especially when they meet, when the same types of groups meet in the end and the beginning. Let's say you take combinations of 3 and 4. You could end up with an example that's 4/3/4. So, something heavy and progressive like... Now, let's look at the shuffle kind of thing. So we're going from 12/8, right? So we have... We're going to cut the last beat. Right? And you can cut any of these beats, right? If you cut the first one, though, it gets a little weird, you can get used to it. What is weird, it's all relative. However, let's try and cut the third group. So it'd be 3/3/2/3. It would be like... right? That's cool. Or if you make it like a, like a new metal kind of shuffle, it'd be cool because it'd be like... Right, I was cutting the last group again. And, you could reshuffle it any way you want, but it's cool. You could do it bluesy, you could do it, fusiony, you could do it metally, whatever you want. Now, let's move on to jazz. In jazz, Dave Brubeck has done a lot of odd time stuff, and the 11/4 is one of them. Again, it's written as 11/4. 11/4 does not belong to 11/8. However, it doesn't belong in the video, but because it's jazz, it's almost always written with a quarter pulse, meaning 11/4, because it's easier to write down eighth notes and have players swing the eighth notes as they read them as opposed to 16th notes, right? So in that song, 11/4, it's 3/3/3/2, right? It sounds like 11/8 because of the speed and the feel of these notes, but it's written in 11/4. When it comes to using the compound approach, this is something new as well, okay? A compound approach is when you use 2 smaller time signatures to create a big one. Now, is it truly that long time signature? It depends, not exactly always. For example, if we use 6/8 and 5/8, you could say this amounts to 11. However, musically speaking, 11 needs to be its own whole phrase, a phrase that you cannot detach any pieces from, right? It's basically one thing on its own. 6/8 and 5/8 as a compound give you a 2-bar phrase of 2 different time signatures, and they play up to 11. But musically speaking, once again, it's 6/8 and 5/8, especially if a riff from 6/8 repeats in 5/8 and gets cut. That's definitely 6 and 5. So don't confuse that with 11. However, if this makes it easy for you, and if that's your piece of music, that's fine. Don't worry about it. There's no purity about this, you know? I mean, I wouldn't say it's 11, but it doesn't matter. It's what it sounds like in the song, and if you can handle it, that's it. Take the 11 to, with a different example. It doesn't matter. Don't feel bad about it. Now, let's see an example with that. So like... I was using the same phrase, the same melody to cut it in 5. This is why it's 6/8 and 5/8. Now, again, if you want to see this as 11 and write down 11/8 and then keep going, that's fine. It's your, it's your song, it's your interpretation, that's fine, but that's another option that you can consider. When it comes to short 6, okay, it's easier to do quarter notes. It's easier to follow quarter notes and even cut them to end up with 11/8. And again, just like in 7/8 and 9/8, using 6/4 to get to 11 as a novice is a great way. It's a great way to get started. So you go like... It's, easier to count quarter notes or just saying the numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, right? In this case, it's easy to go straight through. And, I can't emphasize enough. If you have more complex grouping options of 2s, 3s, and 4s, try not to count. Try to make the word. You can count in the beginning, but then make your rhythmic words, for the 2 and the 3 and the 4, and use them all the time. That way, the counting pattern gets some life. It doesn't just, sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like lines of code. You don't want that. You want it to be musical right from the get-go. Again, when it's quarter notes, like a short 6, that's a different story. If you're going from 6/8, let's say you're doing 6/8 and 5/8, and you believe in your song this amounts to an 11 phrase because it's one whole thing, sure, do your count because, 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's slow enough. It's common for people to count that. It doesn't require all this, lopsided accents that move, so it's fine. But generally speaking, try to make patterns for yourself, words for yourself. And that's it. Now you know. Subscribe if you dig, and I'll see you in the next video.